Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Smart Stars Online Academy. It's been quite a while since we have uploaded a video. I'm sorry for the delay literally, and today I'm back with another video, and this is quite famous and quite popular one, which is included in the syllabus of education. I mean, like B.Eds and M.Eds every single time in almost two or three papers, and this topic is nothing but continuous and comprehensive evaluation, which has been abbreviated as CCE. So let's go into the topic now. The contents that we are going to discuss today is with respect to CCE. First, we go into the introductory part, then we will be explaining the terminology. Then we have to look into the aims, the objectives, and then the differences between the conventional assessment and CCE. And then we're going to be talking about features, then functions, then different aspects and the problems which are associated with CCE, and also what are the measures that needs to be taken for its smooth execution. And then we go about to the conclusion. So first and foremost, if we ought to understand why this continuous and comprehensive evaluation CCE was recommended, it is because usually over the periods emphasis was particularly on the cognitive domain. Okay, and it has to be replaced no matter what, because the needs and the demands of the society are changing each and every single day with the knowledge explosion and technological, scientific and technological explosion and whatnot. So hence this emphasis, overemphasis on the cognitive domain has to be replaced with a more holistic learning plan, which is providing the development of not just the cognitive domain but also the affective as well as the psychomotor domain of the learners, and the personality. If we talk about literally the values, the attitudes, the life skills that they possess, the physical and the mental health, all overall development, that is holistic development, was needed to be considered, and that is why this continuous and comprehensive evaluation was recommended. This was a scheme which was recommended by many national commissions and committees such as Radhakrishnan Commission in 1948 to 49, Secondary Education Commission 1952 to 53, and Education Commission, which is also known as Kothari Commission 1964 to 66, and National Policy on Education NPE 1986. So this CCE is basically an effective tool which we have taken into consideration in order to enhance the quality of teaching learning process in the schools. And now the emphasis is basically that every children is not just required to acquire the knowledge and the skills, but they also should possess the ability to use these competencies in the real life situations. So the emphasis is now on both the knowledge as well as on the performance. Let us look into the terminologies briefly. That is, the major terminologies in this scheme of continuous and comprehensive evaluation is continuous and comprehensive. This continuous means that we are monitoring the progress of the students growth as well as development on a continuous basis. So it's a continuous process rather than being a single time event. And this is built into total teaching learning process, and it is spread over the entire span of academic session. So it means that first of all, regularity of assessment, that is the assessment will be regular. We are meaning the frequency of unit testing. We are diagnosing the learning gap. See, diagnosis and formative assessment, we have learned basically the types of in the types of assessments. Formative assessment and the diagnostic assessment are different. Diagnostic assessment means even after giving the remedial measures to the students, they have certain underlying difficulties. That is known as diagnostic assessment. So we diagnose the learning gaps through the continuous evaluation. Then we use the corrective measures, okay, that is the remedial measures. Then we retested them and give feedback. Okay, feedback. So the major thing that needs to be considered, like we say in formative assessment also, feedback is the main part. So feedback needs to be given over here, and that feedback will be of the evidence of teachers as well as the students, okay, for this self evaluation. Then the second most term that is important is comprehensive. That means comprehensive in the sense it is covering both the aspects, that is the scholastic as well as non-scholastic aspect for the growth and development of the students. So that means it is taking into consideration all the curricular areas as well as the co-curricular areas, that is the non-scholastic aspects. So the abilities, attitudes, aptitudes, they can manifest themselves in the forms that are other than written words. Okay, so with the help of this comprehensive evaluation, we are actually applying the variety of tools and techniques that are available in order to test or assess the learner's development in the various areas of learning. Okay, so these are the major terms. So overall, if we could club and say the CCE encompasses evaluation of both the scholastic as well as co-scholastic aspect of the student's growth, and it is as we have said, carried out on the continuous basis, which is spread over the entire span of academic session. And we are not just counteracting the overemphasis on the intellectual abilities, but also we are helping in removing the fear and the tension that is there in the minds of the students. And this is what is the main purpose of CCE. Okay, now we look into the aims of CCE. Majorly, the aim of CCE is to assess every aspect of the child during their presence at the school. That being said, the aspects that I have said is scholastic as well as the non-scholastic aspects. Both the aspects of the children's need to be assessed when they are present in the school. That is the main aim of CCE. So not just considering the curricular areas, but also the co-curricular and extracurricular areas. We are aiming at the holistic development of the child. Okay, then the second aim is that is CCE helps in minimizing the stress of the child. And third is it makes assessment more comprehensive and regular. As we have said, the assessment must be on a regular basis and it is comprehensive, that is covering both the curricular as well as the co-curricular and extracurricular areas. And it provides space for the teachers for prolific teaching. Prolific teaching means creative teaching. So the teachers will be able to enhance their creativity over and over again, and they would be able to help the children go beyond the textbook. Okay, so being creative, when the teachers are being creative, they will be able to expand the horizon of the children as well. So that is what is the aim of CCE. It also acts as a tool for detection and corrections, and it produces the learners with greater skills. These are the specific aims of CCE. Let's talk about the different objectives of the scheme. First objective is that it helps in development of cognitive, psychomotor, and affective skills. Okay, that we have already discussed, like in the beginning, the overemphasis that was given on the cognitive domain was not reduced, but even the other domains have also been taken into consideration, that is cognitive, affective as well as the psychomotor domains that we have learned in the Bloom's taxonomy. So all these three domains, all the skills in the three domains needs to be considered and they need to be developed. So that is the objective of this particular scheme, that is CCE. Second is to lay emphasis on thought process and de-emphasize memorization. Obviously, it is important that rote memorization be de-emphasized, and the more the children get into deep thinking, they will understand and they will learn through their thought process, and they'll be able to understand and comprehend each and everything in a more clear manner. So that is why the emphasis should be on the thought process. Children needs to learn through their thinking. They need to think so that they will be able to understand each and everything in depth, and they have to de-emphasize memorization. To make evaluation an integral part of teaching learning process. Yes, evaluation needs to be made an integral part of teaching learning process. That means it is not, the teaching learning process itself is not confined to just teaching the students and the students are learning. No, there should be evaluation in the end, so that we will be able to know how much or to what extent the students have actually acquired the required knowledge or the skills or the abilities, each and everything. Next is to use evaluation for improvement of students' achievement and teaching learning strategies on the basis of regular diagnosis followed by remedial instructions. So we have to use evaluation for what purpose? In order to improve the students' achievement. That means when we evaluate the students, we will be able to identify to what extent the students have learned or they have gained the particular knowledge and abilities, and what still is lacking in them, so we can improve the level of achievement the students have already gained, and also we can improve the teaching learning strategies based on the level of achievement the students have gained. So we are diagnosing the students on a regular basis and providing the remedial instructions as well throughout the teaching learning process. So for that purpose we are using evaluation. When you teach, the students are learning by themselves, and when you evaluate, you are actually understanding how much the students have understood, and whether the concept is clear in their minds or not. If they are lacking in any, or if you think that it is not up to the mark, then we try to improve our teaching learning strategies. We try to make use of other different strategies, and we try to give remedial instructions as well, so that the students achieve the objectives that are required to achieve at the end of the instructions, right? Next we have the fifth point, that is to use evaluation as a quality control device to maintain desired standard of performance. There is a requirement for the performance, there is a set level, there is a standard for the performance. Now in order to maintain that particular standard of performance which is desired by us, we need to use evaluation such that it is acting as a quality control device. Okay, then we are using CCE in order to determine the social utility, how it can be used, okay, in the society, to the society, for the society. We see that the knowledge that are being provided to the students must be of practical utility, right? Must be applied, how they can be used, how that particular knowledge can be used to this, for the society, for the betterment of the society, we can say that is the social utility. Then the desirability or the effectiveness of a program. Okay, and we take appropriate decisions about the learner, their process of learning, and also the learning environment. So for that purpose we are using CCE. Then, to make the process of teaching and learning a learner centered activity, we have been always focusing upon um, the type of instructions that we have to provide to the students. Nowadays there has been a paradigm shift, and we talk about teachers being facilitators and guides rather than the authoritative personnel who actually transfer the knowledge or fill in the empty minds of the students. So the students are direct learners, and they are the active learners nowadays, and so we focus upon the child centered or learner centered activity, and hence we are using CCE such that when we have talked in the second point about the emphasis on thought process, that means we are involving and engaging the children in the teaching learning process. So the children's, they are not passive learners, they are no more passive learners, they are the active learners. They are being engaged because they have to think from themselves, they have to construct their own knowledge, and that is why it is a child-centered activity. So we are trying to make this teaching and learning process a learner-centered activity through CCE. That is the particular objective of this scheme. Next, let us see the differences between conventional assessment system and CCE. Okay, so conventional assessment is before CCE, what all was going on, what type of assessment we were considering, and then we will differentiate it with CCE. So in the conventional assessment, if we could see, we have seen that assessment in during our times, if we could say, we had quarterly, half yearly, and annual basis examinations. Okay, and the weightage for the particular annual examinations was disproportionate, it was not in proportion, right? But in CCE, the assessment has like different ways in which you can conduct assessments, and it is continuous, it is periodic, and the weightage across them is equal, even weightage. Okay, Then in case of conventional assessment, if you could see, they were focusing upon the scholastic abilities only. Okay, the emphasis that we talked about, overemphasis, was on only one aspect, that is scholastic aspect. But in CCE, we are focusing upon both the scholastic as well as non-scholastic aspects. In conventional assessment, we had limited tools of assessment. We didn't have, like, like for example, we used to just give unit tests or the assignments sometime, and then we used to have like final examinations, like we have said, quarterly, half yearly, and on annual basis. And we didn't have much scope for different tools that can be utilized for the assessment purpose. But right now in CCE, we have multiple tools through which we can assess. Like we have quizzes, we can have debates, we can have discussions, we can have certain activities that wherein we are actually engaging the children in this manner in CCE. So we have a lot of things that we can take into consideration as the tools for assessment. But during that times when conventional assessment was going on, we as students used to be the passive listeners, and we had limited tools at that time. Now if we talk about the marks, uh, at that time during conventional assessment, marks were allotted. They were particularly numbers. But right now in CCE, they are considering grades, because they are reducing that stress and the tension as well as the fear from the students. When there was conventional assessment at that particular time, marks, when we talk about marks, we used to have like a single digit difference between our friends and us. And that inferiority and superiority complex used to exist. That is the fact we cannot hide. Okay, even if we say, no, 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 she was my friend, I may have written something, this, that, but yeah, that complex used to be there within the students, and they used to fight for the marks, literally. But because of that, I could have got a particular mark more than her or him. This was the thought at that particular time. But because it was changed to awarding grades, the ranges, based on the ranges, a particular grade is assigned. Because of that, even if the person, one person is scoring 85 and the other person is scoring 88, and the range between 80 to 90 is graded as A or whatever, then they won't have that fear, or they won't have that tension within them, or stress within them, that they have lost because of a 2 mark difference or something. So that is why that tension, that stress is being reduced through this shift, wherein marks, allotment of marks has been changed to awarding of grades. Then the assessment basically at that time was summative, like final. Over a period of time it was assessed, and that was over, that was the final. But right now in CCE, it does include the summative part, but it is largely formative, because it is like an ongoing process that is continuing. Okay, so as soon as you finish a part of a lesson, you try to evaluate the students. So that is the ongoing process. You may conclude with a quiz, or you may actually link it with some discussion or anything. So that is like a CCE. And this conventional assessment at that particular time was quite stressful for the students. But right now it is non-stressful, because it is CCE. Assessment was considered as an end in itself, that as I said, that essentially it was summative. But right now assessment is being considered as an ongoing process, and it is largely formative, so it is continuing. So the assessment is being used in CCE in order to improve the teaching for the teachers, as well as enhancing the support for the students. Okay. Next, it was limited to rote memorization in conventional assessment, but in case of CCE, it is expanded to overall growth and development, personality development of the students. So the horizons have been expanded over here. Next, we talk about the features of CCE. As I've said, the two major terminologies that are there in CCE are continuous and the comprehensive elements. Continuous aspect means that it is continual, it is periodicity. Those two features are major in the continuous aspect. So the continuous aspects take care of this continual as well as the periodicity features. When we say comprehensive element, then we are talking about the all round development of the child, that is the holistic development of the child. And together, if we say continuous and comprehensive evaluation, then we are evaluating both the scholastic as well as the non scholastic aspects of the children's growth and development. So like scholastic aspect means it is covering all the curricular areas which are like subject specific we talk about. And when we say co-scholastic aspects, they are co-curricular activities as well as the extracurricular activities, the life skills, attitudes, all those things will come into consideration. So if we are doing assessment in co-scholastic areas, then we are using different techniques. Okay, different techniques. For example, over here I have given, when we are assessing the life skills, then we base our assessment on the indicators of assessment as well as the checklists, right? So we use checklists and the different like rubrics or something, wherein we assess the life skills. Then we look into the functions of CCE. So first function is CCE helps the teacher to systematize efficacious teaching strategies. You can understand by this terminology, efficacious means effective. So arranging it will help the teachers to arrange, okay, in a systematic manner, in a particular fashion, effectively, what the teaching strategies. So the teachers will be able to arrange the teaching strategies in an effective, in an organized manner. Okay. And when we see the continuous evaluation, the evaluation is continuous. That means we are assessing the students on a continuous basis, which will help to detect the weakness, the underlying difficulties that the students possess. Okay, so it will help the teachers to understand the individual learners capabilities as well as the learning that has taken place, and provide them remedial measures also, right? So next point says that through continuous assessments, the students will also be able to know their strengths and weaknesses, because we are including the students in this active process, teaching learning process, and hence the students will also identify what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. They may try to convert their weaknesses into the strengths as well. So that is what CCE helps in. It also helps in identifying what are the changes that have occurred with respect to the attitude and the value systems of the students as well as the teachers, if you can say, because teachers are teaching and they are developing themselves as well. Next, CCE also provides information on the progress of the students. Yes, obviously, we are talking about the comprehensive evaluation, that means scholastic as well as the co-scholastic areas. So you are identifying how the students have progressed in the teaching learning process, and you will be able to forecast the future of the or future success of the learners through this CCE. Then, as I said, the aspects of CCE, there are two aspects of CCE, that is scholastic as well as the co-scholastic aspect. So scholastic aspect deals with the curricular areas or the subject specific areas, and they usually focus on the oral and the written class tests, or like cycle tests, or like activity tests, or daily class performances. And they are basically for improving the writing skills and speaking skills. So this scholastic aspect can be both formative and summative. So when I say formative evaluation, we are it is consisting of diagnostic testing, okay, and it is the extent for formal as well as informal assessment procedures. These will be conducted by the teachers during the learning process, that is teaching learning process, so that they'll be able to alter their methods in order to improve the learning of the students, or in order to improve the students achievement, as I've said. Because informative evaluation itself, we are diagnosing the learners. So when we are saying diagnosing, that means we are finding and evaluating the underlying difficulties that the students possess. So it will be formal as well as informal procedures that will be conducted by the teachers, and during this teaching learning process they will be able to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the students, and they will try to alter those teaching and learning activities in order to improve the students achievement. And this typically involves, as I have said, formative assessment. The important part of formative assessment is feedback, and this feedback will be qualitative feedback. This feedback is not just for the students, but also it is for the teachers, and this will be given on the daily basis, okay, based on the details of content and the performance. So this feedback is the important part of formative evaluation. Next, we have summative evaluation as well. Okay. In the summative evaluation, as I have said, focus will be on the consequences of the program. And summative evaluation is like at the end of the instructional unit, we try to evaluate the student learning by comparing it against a particular norm. So it is done at the end of the differences. If you could see, summative evaluation will be done at the end of the unit or a particular semester, okay, in order to display what the learners have learned and what they haven't learned, right? And it is like in contrast with the formative evaluation. And this summative evaluation is a conventional way, wherein in the formative evaluation, if we could see that, as I have said, there will be effective feedback that will be provided in the formative assessment, and you are actively involving the student in their own learning. And the students will be supporting their peer groups, or the peer groups will be supporting their friends, single friends. And we are integrating diverse learning styles. Okay. Because when we talk about formative evaluation, we are also talking about diagnostic testing. And during diagnostic testing, we try to utilize diverse learning styles, diverse teaching styles, okay, in order to help the students gain whatever knowledge is required, that must be acquired by that particular student at that particular instant. So it will help in integrating diverse learning styles to decide how and what to teach, right? Plus, the formative assessment will help and provide the students with a chance to improve their scores, because they get a feedback and they understand what are their strengths and weaknesses, and based on that, they will be provided with an opportunity to improve their scores. And this formative assessment will also help in detection and correction of the assessment processes. But in case of summative evaluation, it is completely like contrasting. And it is very conventional way, wherein it is done only at the end of the unit, so as to understand what the students have learned and what they have not learned. Other than that, there is nothing to it. So these are the differences between formative and summative evaluation. If we talk about the purpose, the formative evaluation's purpose is, you are actually talking about the improvement. Okay, we are actually talking about the improvement. I'm sorry, we're talking about the improvement. Okay, if you could see this. And we are also offering corrective measures to the students based on their level of performance, their aspect of performance. Where in case of summative evaluation, we are just judging against a set criteria, judging against a set criteria. Okay, that is what we are doing, nothing more than that. Next, the use of formative evaluation is in order to improve a particular program or instruction. We are using formative evaluation. But when we talk about summative evaluation, we are making decisions about the future, okay, or how to adopt the instruction. That is the particular use of summative evaluation. In formative evaluation, the different evaluators will be primary internal evaluators, and they will be supported by the external evaluators. Okay, evaluators will be major. Primary means that is the first persons, major persons, that are the internal evaluators. They will be supported by the external evaluators. But in case of summative evaluation, their evaluators will be external, and they will be supported by the internal evaluators in unique cases. Do you understand? Okay, because in summative evaluation, the others external evaluators will evaluate, and they will be supported by the internal evaluation. The major characteristics for the formative evaluation is that it is providing feedback. Okay, it is providing feedback. And yeah, and in summative evaluation, it is providing information to enable the program personnel to decide whether they have to continue the instruction, or whether the consumer should adopt to that particular instruction that is already available. Okay, then the design constraints in formative evaluation are what information is needed and when. Okay, design constraints: when we design the formative evaluation, we see what information is needed and when. But the questions in summative evaluation for design constraints will be, what evidence is needed for major decisions. Okay, then as I've said, the purpose of data collection in formative assessment is diagnostic, but in case of summative assessment it is purely judgmental. And the measure of formative evaluation is sometimes informal, okay, but in case of summative evaluation it is valid and reliable. Formative evaluation in we collect data frequently, but in summative evaluation it is an infrequent collection of data. Sample size for formative evaluation is generally small, but in case of summative evaluation it is large, because we take a large, I mean, like, the whole class will be evaluated at the same particular time. But in case of formative evaluation we can divide them into groups, like small groups, and we can do the assessment or formative evaluation, right? So the sample size in formative evaluation is quite small comparing to summative evaluation, wherein it is usually large. The questions that will be asked in formative evaluation is what is working currently, what we have utilized from that, what is working, and what needs to be improved, and how can it be improved, because we are talking about the improvement in formative evaluation. In case of summative evaluation is purely judgmental, so we are like what results occur, because at the end of the evaluation we see that what results occur, with whom, under what conditions, with what type of training, and at what cost. This is the major things or major differences between formative and summative evaluation. Then as I've said, co-scholastic aspects, this is the second aspect. So they focus upon the increasing of skills of students. Okay, skills may be different skills, like life skills we have said. We can also say the art and music skills, the dance skills, the computer skills, the what to say, physical education skills, or the general knowledge skills. Okay, co-scholastic aspects. So when we are evaluating co-scholastic aspects, we can utilize different tools of assessment, like for example I have said earlier, like quizzes, debates, competitions, or certain activities can be conducted, and they can be evaluated. Okay, okay, let's see what are the problems which are associated with CCE. So actually there has been a study which was conducted by P Singhal in 2012, and the study was entitled Continuous and Comprehensive Evaluation, a study of teachers perceptions. So he gave or he revealed, you can say, that the teachers are facing certain problems while executing CCE at the school level, and these are some of those. That is, first is large number of students in class. Okay, at the time the results in 2012, they revealed that most of the teachers were finding difficulty in execution of CCE in large classes, because there was a huge number of students, large number of students, and they weren't able to give appropriate individual attention in such classes, in large number of, in a class wherein there are large number of students. Obviously when the student number is more, okay, then the teachers won't be able to concentrate or pay individual attention in the classes, and that will be quite difficult. So CCE talks about paying individual attention, and in large number in the classes wherein there are large number of students, it will be quite difficult. So that was the first problem that was encountered, that was revealed by P Singhal in his study. Secondly, the lack of appropriate training, obviously, because CCE was new at that time, and for smooth execution you will have to get trained if you are teachers, and appropriate training was the uh, concern. But because they were teachers who had lack of appropriate training, because of that they couldn't smoothly execute CCE in the schools or in the classrooms. Third was lack of seriousness among students. Yes, because through CCE the students, this they had this fact in their mind that they will pass even though they won't make enough efforts in the academics, and because of that they have this, they had this misunderstanding, or you can say misconception about CCE, that because scholastic as well as co-scholastic aspects were being assessed. So even if they don't do better in academics, at least they do good in their co-scholastic aspects, then they are going to pass no matter what was their thought. And that misconception was rising, and because of that they were not serious throughout in their academics, and hence they reported that this is the major problem that was being faced at that particular time. Next was the financial constraints. Yes, we can see that CCE is quite time consuming because you have to go through formative assessment, although summative assessment was included, and it's continuous evaluation plus comprehensive evaluation, and hence, you should have that pocket full in order to smoothly execute this CCE. And because it did not suit the pocket of every single student, there were many financial constraints associated with it. Then fifth is the lack of adequate infrastructural facilities and teaching materials. Yes, because CCE is such that it requires a lot of, teaching materials and infrastructural facilities as well. At that time, it was difficult to execute CCE because they were, not adequate. They were inadequate. The infrastructural facilities as well as the teaching materials were inadequate, and the teachers were facing difficulties in executing CCE in the classroom. Next, it increased volume of work. Obviously, the teachers were overly burdened. In the schools, if we could see that the teachers are overly burdened with the work, okay, and because of CCE, it increased their volume of work, and it has affected hugely the teaching effectiveness in the classrooms. So these were some of the problems which are associated with CCE. Let's talk about the measures for smooth execution of CCE. How are you supposed to smoothly execute CCE? What measures need to be taken? First and foremost, as I've said, because of large number of students in the classes, the teachers were facing difficulty in order to execute the CCE. Hence, the number of students should be limited to 30 to 40. And adequate training must be provided to the teachers through conferences, meetings, workshops in the states in particular. And this problem of lack of adequate infrastructural facilities and teaching materials must be countered, and they have to provide proper facilities that are required for the teaching learning process in the government schools. Then careful examination of the course and specification of competencies to be attained by the learners in terms of knowledge, understanding, application. And these are like lower order skills. The higher order skills are analysis, synthesis, and evaluation for higher grade. If we could see Bloom's taxonomy, in that the lower order skills are knowledge, understanding, and application for lower grades, and analysis, synthesis, and evaluations comes for the higher grades. So carefully we need to examine the courses. They need to examine the courses, and they have to specify for a particular grade what competencies need to be attained. That needs to be specified properly. Then knowledge and ability to construct assessment tools that are criteria based, appropriate for assessing the competencies. Then competency based teaching procedures must be carefully planned, plus comprehensive evaluation of competencies as well as personality traits and attitudes must be considered. Records must be maintained, and remedial teaching, to provide remedial teaching, there should be assistance, there should be evaluation, there should be commitment on part of each and every teacher. That is the requirement these days, okay. And the other issues like financial support and the detachment of extra duties need to be paid a little more attention, so there shouldn't be an unnecessary burden on the already busy teachers, is what it is saying. So these are some of the measures for smooth execution of CCE. So if we conclude this evaluation, we know that when we talk about curriculum, when we talk about anything, each and everything needs evaluation. For example, you build a machine, okay. After building that particular machine, you need to evaluate it so as to understand whether it is smoothly running or not, whether it is programming or functioning uh, as per the requirement or not. That is why evaluation is the major part and parcel of the teaching learning process of any curriculum, and it will influence the quality of teaching and learning. So when we evaluate the learners, we are actually evaluating their strengths as well as weaknesses. We are diagnosing their difficulties and providing remedial measures for improving the achievement of the students. And not just when the learners are evaluated, we are actually trying to convert their weaknesses into the strengths. Plus we are trying as teachers to develop ourselves as well. So evaluation is very, very important. So thank you very much for today's session. This is it. I hope you understood, and please do like our video and subscribe, and share this video among your friends and colleagues and whoever need this information. I hope you all have understood it better. So thank you again, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.